Hi, I'm Nathan Thornberry with the Inspector Services Group, and I want to talk to you about the future of home inspection. And we can't talk about the future without talking about what it is today. When we talk about home inspections, we cannot separate ourselves from associations, from our current standards of practice, all of those things, licensing standards, etc. And, what are those things? What do we do as inspectors? For most of us, we look at the SOPs as a document that we can reference in an inspection agreement in order to limit our liability. For most of us, it is not a guide on how to do an inspection. If you read most standards of practice, most, not all, but most, they do not require that inspectors mention a rodent or evidence of rodents. They don't require that an inspector check all accessible outlets, just a representative number, and just a representative number of windows and doors as well. Most of them have hardly any mention, if at all, about kitchen appliances, some of the most expensive mechanical components in a home. Now, to be fair, many inspectors check these things, probably most. In some states, Texas, we have a couple of these items that are required by license law, most notably as far as an association standard goes, and they're not very good about bragging on this, but gosh, FABI, the Florida Association of Building Inspectors, their standard requires all accessible outlets to be tested. So, there are standards that go in excess of what a national standard is. But the national standards, and I say national standards from, major associations largely, and the ones that have been adopted in many states for licensing standards, really go at a bare minimum, not because they wanted inspections to be a bare minimum, or because they ever wanted inspections to be to the standard, because they know the standard is not good. They wrote the standards so that they could apply universally and protect liability. That's their only concern. And associations, what are they here to do? Well, primarily educate, to some extent regulate, have these kind of SOPs out there, and also have that camaraderie, that brotherhood of inspectors, or sisterhood even. And those are all great things. We have come out with an advanced standard that we have promoted, number one, as a supplemental standard to whatever your standard is in your inspection agreement. And I want to review it with you today, a little bit sooner than I had planned. But what transpired in the last 24 to 48 hours is really interesting. When we talk about the home inspection industry, you can't talk about it without mentioning that around 20% of all inspections done in this country include some sort of a warranty, primarily from me. You can't talk about it without saying that many inspectors check for recalls using Recall Check. And these warranties and guarantees, there are so many inspectors out there that have this why not attitude. They look at anything and say, I need to find out any reason I can to say, why not? And it doesn't just go for my stuff. It goes for anything. Anything that might help their business, anything that might be a benefit to their client. And it's totally understandable and somewhat threatening, this idea that if somebody uses one inspector and they have a sewer line problem, for instance, they get a check in the mail or they get their yard dug up and the issue fixed. And that's what happens just with Sewer Guard alone, 80,000 times a month. We're digging up multiple yards per day. I couldn't be prouder of that. And there was nothing the inspector could have done. He did the exact same inspection that the other guy did. Minor differences, but more or less the same inspection. The client result was better, and there was a better product because the inspection came with Sewer Guard. Whereas the other guy did the exact same thing. Client moved in, did everything right, read the seller's disclosure, read their inspection report, reviewed it with their agent, got a home warranty, did all of those things, and yet one client, similarly situated, is stuck with a bill for the most expensive plumbing line in their house. And, that is something that is totally avoidable, virtually for free, and yet 80% of inspectors don't do it. And what are the reasons that they give? They say, gosh, there might be an exclusion in that policy. Well, dudes, read your inspection agreements. They say that you can miss $10,000 worth of problems and they get their inspection fee back. Oh, and by the way, we're only responsible for checking a representative number of outlets, and we can step over a herd of dead rats and not mention a damn thing. Now, is that something that you guys would actually do? Probably not, but let's have the balls to say we won't. And we already have hundreds of inspectors that have adopted this, and we're sending out whole packages so that they can attach it to their inspection agreement and to their inspection reports. And it was inspired by inspectors that said, we go further than these standards, but we're advertising these standards. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Why can't we advertise something a little further? So I want to review with you this, because in the last 24 to 48 hours, that brand of inspector that's threatened by the idea that somebody might have a product that is undoubtedly better got really threatened at these standards and erroneously went out and said to one particular statewide unnamed association, oh my gosh, this guy is insulting you guys and doesn't respect your standards and everything else. Well, watch the first 2 minutes of this video. But that isn't the point. This is a supplemental standard that goes above and beyond those standards so that you can say, here's what we do. So let me review it with you first, because this is all very, very simple stuff. And it says right in it, it's a supplemental standards practice designed to be utilized in conjunction with the applicable referenced standard in your agreement. So unless explicitly noted in this advanced standard, which will be posted publicly, you might even be reading this from a post at homeinspectionforum.net where we're posting it today. All limitations of that referenced standard apply unless explicitly stated otherwise. So let's go into those explicitly stated otherwise things. Additional required items to be inspected beyond the referenced standard. Number 1, all accessible outlets free of obstructions and within reach shall be checked with a standard outlet testing device, and testing shall include any GFCI outlets meeting the same criteria. In other words, none of this, gosh, I'm not going to trip that GFCI because I don't know what it might control. No, we check it. If there's an outlet that it doesn't require moving furniture, moving stuff, if it's accessible, we take our $4 outlet tester and we do the 2-second test to see if the right lights come on. Pretty simple, adds to the safety element for clients. Really, everyone should be doing it. Whether they utilize these standards, and many of our own clients that offer warranties won't be, promoting this as their standard because maybe they don't see the marketing benefit or just don't want to do everything that's in the standard, and that's cool. It's not compulsory. It's just an idea that moves the ball 3 yards at a time. We're doing a running game. I would love to come up with a standard that goes way beyond this and creates huge value to an inspection that is a benefit to the client and a benefit to the industry, but we can't do that overnight. It has to be, a short game done many times over. So, number 2 item, all accessible doors and windows free of obstructions and within reach shall be checked for functionality, rot, and other damage. Pretty simple. Probably most of you do it already. So far, so good. Number 3, evaluate the basic functionality of main kitchen appliances to include the following. Cycle the dishwasher to check for leaks and basic functionality. Ensure the refrigerator is cooling, lights are functional, and dispensers operate as intended. This is really hard. You have to open the refrigerator and see if it's colder inside than it is outside. Run the disposal to ensure operation. Ensure all oven and stove elements and burners turn on. You don't have to, under this standard, figure out if they're hitting the exact temperature or within 25 degrees of the intended temperature or whatever the manufacturer's instructions say on that particular appliance. You don't have to do any of that. Check exhaust fans for functionality. You'll notice also in these standards, we don't say you have to report on them. That's up to you. It's up to you to say, yeah, I cycled the dishwasher and there were no leaks. But if there is a leak, presumably you would report it in order to meet the standard. Note visible or suspected mold in excess of 2 square feet within the finished living areas where free of obstructions and within view. Gosh, this is a big one. Now we're getting controversial. I can't imagine there's a home buyer in the world that would say, I really want to buy an inspection where the inspector sees mold and does not mention it. So let's just give them what they want. This setting expectations and educating clients on how little we might do is absurd. If you see mold, call it out. If you don't want to call it mold, say suspected mold. Don't say, suspected microbial growth, whatever. That's nonsense, and people don't understand it. Suspected mold, suggest a test. If you don't know how to test, we'll show you how to test. It's really simple. You make some money doing it, and there's a client benefit. They get to tell the seller to fix the mold. Not that hard. Going on. Note rodents and or evidence of rodents where free of obstructions and within view within the finished living areas where accessed by the inspector. You'll notice we went living areas on this because mice in particular can get pretty tricky when it comes to burying themselves in insulation in attics and such. If you see it, I would note that. But we wanted to protect inspectors from, a standard that was unreasonable, which would be things that they could not possibly notice. This does that. And look, if you walk into a house and there's a bunch of dead rats, you should say there's a bunch of dead rats. There's a bunch of mice feces. You should say there's a bunch of mice feces. That's indicative of a problem that affects the value and habitability of the home. It causes, at the very least, the expense of getting rid of the problem. Going on, check for manufacturer recalls on basic appliances and deliver a recall check report. That's right, it's right in the standard. And you know what? It should be. The only accurate way to find a recall is with a recall check report. We're up to about 1 in every 9 homes getting a free repair. We've checked around 4.5 million homes for repairs, and gosh, that's roughly 360,000, 370,000 free repairs for clients of yours. You want to deliver value? Deliver a free $200 repair with your inspection. That changes the inspection value, and frankly, it's the right thing to do. It's virtually free. It can be completely free. If you don't know how to do that, just go to inspectionsuccess.net. Next, issue a warranty against roof leaks on any home where no visible moisture or leaking issues were observed from a duly authorized warranty or service contractor provider. That means a licensed one. And we happen to be that. We do that for around 20% of the industry. We have a roof leak warranty that goes for 5 years. And here's the thing, it reduces your liability in a huge way. You can't always tell when something is going to leak, and that's why it's in the standard. Maybe you see nothing today. Maybe it hasn't rained in months. There's no evidence of moisture, but there is currently a condition that will leak. How do you know? What are we delivering to the client? Well, let's deliver them true peace of mind. It's not just a cliche phrase. It's a reality. We can deliver protection. And in fact, get rid of that dumb phrase, peace of mind. You are not delivering peace of mind if you're delivering a report that expires the moment you walk out the door. But if you deliver protection, the client will thank you for it. Next, note the current water pressure at one plumbing fixture drawing from the primary source of water delivery for the home. So this wouldn't count for like a secondary well or, a pump for a sprinkler system from a local pond. No, the main source. And it's really simple. We're talking about a pressure gauge. A lot of guys will do it right at where the washing machine hookup is if there's not one there. Some will do it at the outdoor spigot. My suggestion, take a picture of the gauge. For you guys that are newer, that haven't experienced this yet, if water pressures go up pretty high, 110, 120 PSI, plumbing fixtures start to break. Now, if you were there and it was 80 PSI, it's just fine. And a neighborhood goes in down the street, or the water company makes a change, or installs a pump, or whatever. A lot of things can change that water pressure, and doing this is actually going to prevent a problem for you down the road. Next, note the age of the HVAC systems where clearly evident on a manufacturer's identification tag. Not hard. It's pretty much automatic with recall check anyway, but if you're not using that system for it, that's fine. If it's not evident and visible, then you don't have to note it. Simple. Test the pressure-activated auto reverse and related safety mechanisms of garage doors where applicable. All right, so this is the one. I usually get through this whole list, And, I had 300 people in a room going through the standard going, yep, yep, yep. And then they got to this one. And at least, 5 or 6 of them go, oh, wait a second. I stopped doing that because I had a garage door fold on me, or I had one jump at the tracks, or, one that broke, whatever. All right, guys, this is part of the standard. If you don't want to do that one, then don't use the standard. It's not compulsory. It's totally cool. You can use our full warranty package with $25,000 in coverage compared to your competition that offers their inspection fee back, and you will win in the marketing game. I don't think this is as big of a marketing piece as $25,000 worth of coverage versus zero. But if you're going to use the standards, if you're going to jump on this train that is set to move the industry forward, set it and push it to the next level, you got to do stuff like this. Now, when you ask guys that have folded a garage door, how many times has that happened? The answer is usually like either 0, once, or twice out of hundreds or even thousands of inspections. All right, so after you get done doing an inspection, go home, throw a nickel in a coffee jar for your garage door folding fund. The reason we do this, the reason we go to this level, is so that we're really delivering something of value to the client. And I can think of nothing more valuable than this one. Let me tell you, if you look at reverse polarity outlets, go search Google for how many people have been killed, or pets or kids have been killed by reverse polarity outlets. The answer is very, very few. Can it damage electronics? Is it a safety issue? Sure, I'm not suggesting we don't call that. But when you look at the number of kids and pets that are injured or killed by garage doors that don't have a properly operating auto reverse mechanism, it's a lot more. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, especially the pets, right? But the kids for sure. And there's just no excuse to not do that. If we're delivering something, if we're getting paid, let's take on some liability, because liability equals opportunity. Now, before I go on to the rest of the standard, I want to tell you something, and this is very important. If the associations or the state licensing boards or whoever decides to go and add much or all of this into their standards and raise things up, I'm not disappointed. That might actually be the intended consequence here. And then we'll move it up a little bit more and a little bit more. 25 years from now, for those of you that will still be in the business, or maybe you've sold the business to one of your employees, or you have a son, like, I'm the son of a home inspector in this business 25 years from now, if at that point there are still guys bitching at each other about getting paid roughly what they were 25 years ago while doing the exact same job in the exact same quality as they did 25 years prior, then we will have a serious issue. I mean, that would be sad, and I will not have fulfilled my mission, which is to push these things forward. So any association that wants to say, yeah, if you see a rat, call it out in their standards, be my guest. Go ahead. In fact, steal my verbiage. I don't mind. Steal it. It's all yours. Any association anywhere in the U.S. and Canada, or the world for that matter, steal this. It does. I am not claiming copyright to it against associations. It's all yours. But it's perfect as a supplement to your existing standards, and keep doing what you do and keep educating your guys and get them in a room together every once in a while. That's good stuff for the industry. Next, additional required deliverables to the client beyond the reference standard. Each client shall receive from a duly authorized, in other words, licensed warranty or service contract provider, a 90-day limited warranty for mechanical and structural failures, a 90-day limited warranty for underground sewer and water line issues, a 90-day limited warranty for visible mold issues, so that we don't just say there's not mold, there isn't mold, and we can guarantee it. And then there's the required guarantee. And this one was another one where a couple guys go, wait a second, I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. Most were, but you may not be. So let me read this slowly, and then I'll discuss for a moment. At least a 100% satisfaction money-back guarantee solely applied to any funds paid for the inspection service itself, so not the ancillaries, for a minimum of 15 days following the inspection. That's right. If you're going to do these standards include, delivered to the client, a 100% money-back satisfaction guarantee, good for 15 days following the inspection. Now, here's what some have said, and this is totally fair. I've done a 100% or a 200% satisfaction guarantee, 200% being kind of the full risk reversal that Mike Crow is very much credited for bringing to our industry, and there's inspectors all over the country using it, and that's great. There's nothing about that has to go away, but they say I do that, and I tell the client if they're not happy with my inspection, by the end of the inspection, just let me know. They won't pay for it, and they won't get a report, and all that stuff. And they rarely, if ever, have anyone use it. Like we'll have a room of people at one of Mike Crow's conferences, for instance, and 200 of them will say, I've never paid out on this, or one of them has. Okay, that's fair. But think about that for a second. Every single day we take not one, not dozens, but hundreds of claims for home inspections. Hundreds of claims for things that could not have been predicted. Roof leaks, water leaks, electrical problems, furnace and air conditioning problems, kitchen appliance problems like you would not believe. People move in, they start using things in a little bit different way, and they're able to get coverage for that. And the reason we're so happy about writing those checks is because our product is real. It solves a real need. If you have a guarantee that has literally never paid out, that guarantee has a value of actually $0. So this is pushing things a little bit further. It's saying, gosh, somebody has to be unhappy with you, upset 15 days following the inspection. And I would expect that we have not many more, but slightly more people that take you up on that guarantee. What does that mean? That means you might have to write a check every once in a while. It also means that the guarantee wasn't worthless. It was real. It worked. It fulfilled a need. It satisfied a client who otherwise might have been a nightmare on social media or might have been complaining to their agent or what have you. So here's what I would suggest you do. Go to the Home Inspection Forum, homeinspectionforum.net. I'm posting these standards unedited, just exactly how they are. I'm posting them there right now, and read through them and say, gosh, if I were a buyer, is this how I would want to be treated? And if you're saying to yourself, well, yeah, I go beyond the minimum standards. I check most of the outlets. I check most of the windows. I do that anyway. Okay. Does that match up with your inspection agreement? Or do you force your clients to sign an agreement that says you inspect virtually nothing with virtually zero liability? And is that how you would want to be treated? One. And two, if someone was willing to do more and take on more liability for it, even if most of the liability is put off on a third-party warranty company, would you be willing to pay more for it? The answer to that question, maybe for you, no, but for clients, for buyers, is yes. And we have 30,000 unique results in the largest survey ever done of buyers ever at homeinspectionsurvey.com to prove it. For more information on our products and services, go to www.inspectionsuccess.net. Everybody can get a free trial of everything we do. We make sure it works for you and that there's a return on investment before you ever pay us a penny. And frankly, you'll be surprised at how little some of this stuff costs.